Hi. So I thought I'd do a video just basically recommending my favorite Daredevil story. And if I was doing this 20 years ago, this would not be it. But I feel like I've read so much stuff since then, and comics and storytelling and the whole vibe of comics has changed since it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Oh no, 20 years ago, it was only 2004, isn't it? Early 2000s then. God, I'm old. I would not pick this one. I'd have picked something else. So, like I said, it's going to be my favourite Daredevil story. It's not Frank Miller, and I adore Frank Miller's run. I've read all of it. It's not Bendis. It's not Brubaker. I've read all them as well. I've read Mark Waid, blah, blah, blah. Not read um, Chip Zdarsky or anything else like that. I will do eventually. But I just wanted to recommend one which is a complete story in itself. You don't need anything else. It's tight and it's compact. It's got perfect art. It's got perfect colouring and it's got perfect story beats all the way through. It's a team that works in perfect unison. And it has to be Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's Daredevil Yellow. So I'll read the back of it. It says, the the measure of a man is not in how he gets knocked to the mat, it is in how he gets up. These are the words blind attorney Matthew Murdoch's father lived and died by. Prize fighter battling Jack Murdoch's murder set into motion a chain of events that exploded with a new superhero swinging out of New York City's Hell's Kitchen, the blind acrobat Daredevil. In its retelling of the early career of the Man Without Fear, the Eisner award-winning team of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale have taken an inspiring action-adventure story and blended it with a romantic comedy, and the result is highlighted by Tim Sale's dazzling ink washes and Matt Hollingsworth's spectacular colour. And it's a heartwarming and heartbreaking story of two young people in love, Matt Murdock and Karen Page. So, so this is the team, obviously, that did the whole Batman series of books, the Long Halloween, Dark Halloween, etc., Haunted Halloween, or Haunted Night, wasn't it? Was it? I don't know. And it's just gosh, I mean, first of all, the art just amazing. I mean, I love Frank Miller's art on Daredevil and a lot of the other artists, Chris Samney, but there's something so special about and unique about Tim Sale's storytelling. Without Tim Sale, there would be no Chris Samney. He was more like one of the pioneers of this kind of almost like cartoonish, not kind of minimalistic, but just this almost like a retro. It felt like art from years ago. Had this nice retro sensibility. So we just focus on the art to start with. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, and how he draws Daredevil in action, just fantastic. But he does that, and then there's like little story beats. Like he basically Matt and Foggy both fall head over heels for Karen Page, and I love how they draw Karen Page and portray Karen Page. She's very much like this, more like an actress from the 40s. You can imagine being like in a Cary Grant comedy from the 40s. Let's just see. It's just something very. It doesn't feel like it's even a story set in the 60s when the first Daredevil story came out. It feels like it's from years before then, and it works. It just works. I mean, the use of shadow and foreshadowing of the story, where this guy's run, you could sense the fear in his face, the trepidation, and it's just perfection. But let's. And one thing I do wish that Tim Sale could have done with Jeff Loeb is a Fantastic Four story, because little cameo by the Fantastic Four. It's just beats like this. This came out in 2001, so we were still on the cusp of the dark and gritty crime noirish kind of story beats for Daredevil, for Batman, and all the other like street level heroes. So this was abhorrent, really. It's like, ugh. So when I read it when it first came out in 2001, I just love this as well with Electro, and it didn't sit right with me because I was so ingrained of having my hero's got to be dark and gritty. Everything had to be full of angst and, oh, why did she do that? Why did you kill her? And then the rain patters down on the face. You know, Sin City was at the height of its popularity at that time. Um, but reading it now with fresh eyes, after not reading it for over 20 years, wow, this is just fantastic. And I like the framing. I mean, look at the dynamism in that. It just portrays the acrobatic skills like I've never seen for Daredevil. It gives a really fresh, unique take on his character. Even the people who come to the office, it's got, you can feel like, you can imagine like a Sam Spade kind of voiceover. So even the mundane things like the office, it's all just perfectly rendered. So he's Jeff Loeb just catches the voice of all the characters perfectly. What I like about it is the framing device. So it opens with modern day Daredevil, and he's basically writing a lost love letter to Karen Page, obviously who died before then. Um, and so it's all very grey with the splash of the blood red costume of Daredevil, and then it switches back to happier times when he was just starting out. He was being a student. He was studying to become a lawyer. He'd become friends. He's rooming with Freddie. His dad was still alive at the height of his game as a prize fighter, and so we all know the beats of how he got his power, how his dad died, and suddenly he decides to become Daredevil. But what this does, it has the noirish sensibility of a classic Miller story or a classic Bendis story, but then it brings in this ray of sunshine. So it has this quirky comedic undertone, which isn't oversaturated. It's not in your face. It's just very natural. It's very peppy. So he was doing stuff in this years before Mark Waid decided to do it with Chris Samney and the other artists on his books. So it had that lightness to it, but like I said, then it can shift to a very dark period in his life and convey the heaviness just with the use of art. With sometimes there's pages where there's no words. You don't need the words because the panels speak for themselves. Tim Sale draws a fantastic foggy. I mean, and just that page there just shows there's the vibrancy to it, and that's what you want from a comic. Even when a comic's dark, you need to see the. If it's just constantly dark, 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 it doesn't become an enjoyable experience. I love, like I said, I love Frank Miller. I think he was a genius. He's a genius, and his run on Daredevil is possibly one of the best comic runs of all time. But for me, this is the strongest Daredevil story because it has both sides. It has the light and dark, and they mesh perfectly. It's got. It's a hard thing to do. Is pathos where you can have really funny moment, but then it's shrouded in sadness at the same time. You know, it's like suddenly they're laughing about something, but it's in an area where they shouldn't be laughing about it. Um, and Jeff Loeb is some of his strongest writing in here, and I don't know. It's just such a. I don't think it's a book that's talked about enough, really. I know Spider-Man Blue gets talked about a lot, and I know that their Batman comics get talked about a lot. But for me, this is in a whole another league, and I like how they explain why he had such a garish costume to start with, and it makes so much sense. You're like, of course, and it's really sweet. It's really kind of like sentimental. This is a Daredevil with heart. This is shows you Matt Murdock as as a man more than just a vigilante. This is Daredevil in happier times when everything was working for him. The first issue is him dealing with the grief of his dad being killed, then finding out who did it, and then it's moving on into his early days as Daredevil. And what I also love about this, they don't rely on the big bads. There's no reliance on people like Kingpin. So Wilson Fisk is not in here. I mean, obviously, Kingpin was originally a Spider-Man villain. People seem to forget that. But it focuses on some of the more quirky ones. So the Owl's in as a client, and that's a really fun framing device as well. With he real he kind of like realizes that there's something fishy there, and the Purple Man's in as well. And I love the scene with the Purple Man. Oh yeah, that's what I said about Karen Page looking like from the 40s. So there's a really great bit with the Purple Man. And this was years before David Tennant came on board, but I wonder if they got some of the ideas for his portrayal from this version of the Purple Man, right down to the hairstyle as well. So that's really refreshing as well, where they use him more like his C-list villains instead of the prime villains. And even Electro's in as well, and it makes sense why he's in. And it's just fun. It's fun, and I think this is why this is now with somebody a lot older than I was when I first got into Daredevil. This is why now this has replaced Frank Miller as my favourite. Any Frank Miller's run as my favourite Daredevil story, and why it's replaced the Bendis and Brubaker run. It's complete in 6 issues, and you're invested straight away from the first chapter, and you go on this ride with them. You feel the emotions, and it helps with. You've still got him like writing this letter to Karen from present day. Matt Murdock writing this letter to a dead Karen Page, as still as the framing panels in the story as well. So you got those little boxes of text, and it just it's just great. I mean, the art is just Matt Hollingsworth deserves as much praise as himself, to be honest, in how the synchronicity of the colouring with Tim Sale's ink washes. It's not something you see very often in comics. This perfect unison of all talent that's involved in it. So if you're wondering what to get somebody as a perfect jumping on point for Daredevil, this one. If you want one that's just a satisfactory read, you don't want anything where it's bogged down by history, you need to read all these other volumes, you need to get this omnibus, you need to get this, you need to get that. This one, it's complete, it's satisfactory. They did the same thing with Superman for All Seasons. It's got the same kind of wholesome and moving feel, but with it being Daredevil, they've got that nice noirish undertone, what they did masterfully with Batman as well. So this is one that should be on everybody's bookshelf if they call themselves a Daredevil fan. It's just a book that doesn't get as much love as it should. This should be up there as one of the greatest Daredevil stories, along with the Frank Miller run, the Bendis and Brubaker run, and I think now, of course, Chip Zdarsky's run is being touted really highly as well. So yeah, really, really good. It's a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. It's one, like I said, I read it 20 odd years ago, and I'm so glad I tried it again recently, and I've fallen in love with it madly now. Your taste changes as you get older. You don't want things always to be full of angst. You want things to be relatable, and this is so much more relatable than a lot of comics that I read back then. It's, there's angst when there needs to be angst. It seems there's um, devastation when there needs to be devastation, but then there's hope as well. It's balanced. It's a balanced comic. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Perfect read. Everybody who calls themselves a Daredevil fan needs to own this book. Okay, bye.